Welcome to Martini Time and Following the Dharma Trail. Remembering Roy Rogers, happy trails to you. That's the Dharma Trail. So, as Jackie Gleason says, how sweet it is. So following the Dharma Trail, if you remember a couple of talks ago, I talked about the perfect coffee maker and how my Jura, J-U-R-A coffee machine, which makes cappuccino and custom ground coffee and latte and beautiful machine. And I think it cost about $1,600 4 years ago when I had some money. And so it stopped working. The grinder stopped working. Spinning wouldn't work. And oh no. And so I called up the Jura tech support and they went through the little tests and that didn't work. So yep, you got to send it in. Okay, so it's $350 to send it to Jura and they fix whatever's wrong with it and ship it back. So you don't have to pay the shipping. But $350, okay. So we just put it on the back porch and we'll use the perfect Keurig coffee pot. However, today, interesting how things connect. See, my wife was texting my son, and he said, and he mentioned something about it, and for some reason I decided to, I think my wife said something, I don't know what, but anyway, we're sitting, so I checked up on YouTube, and there are the YouTubes on how to clean the coffee grinder, and it seems that the grinders, if you use heavy roast beans like what we use, will begin to solidify this coating of beans, roasted oil around, and the grinder can't, it registers full, so it keeps saying, fill the beans, fill the beans. So anyway, so we looked at this YouTube, and I got really, I said, well, dang on, I can do this, we can do this. So tomorrow we're going to set it up and take the grinder out and clean it and see if we can restore our Jura grinder. And I wanted to talk today about the other side of assumptions. I always, everything, I'm a narcissist in that everything that happens in the world, I relate to me. But it all becomes metaphorical and points to Buddhism and Zen and all these beautiful teachings and everything, and I get all caught up in the in these metaphorical never mind connections. Okay, and I forget the practical, everyday doings of life, like. I could fix that. So, but let me share something about myself now. We all have assumptions, and I really, looking at my own life as an example, is that there are some basic assumptions or attitudes we have towards life, perhaps instilled in childhood, I'm sure, that just seem to frame the way we are in life, even when you get to my age. It's still there, and the assumption that I never question until, like I just described with the Jura, when suddenly you realize, well, I can fix that, Let me try to fix that, you see. So my assumption is that I can't fix it. And I just have a very powerful, just one little memory of my father. He was a naval officer, and he came home from sea a lot. He's in and out, kind of like a truck driver, And I just remember, I have one memory, that it seems to be the symbolic imprint of this assumption. And I remember trying to fix my bike, and my father was standing there, and I was fumbling around, and he says, "You can't do that, give me that." And so he fixed it. And so that, for a child, that is a imprint. And you believe the father, you trust the father is God to the child, and if the father says, You can't fix that. Let somebody else do it. That becomes the framework within which you deal with life, you see. And so your assumption is that I can't fix it. Well, I was fortunate enough to marry a woman who doesn't have that assumption, so she's always able to fix things where I get stuttering. Well, let me fix that. So I continue the game, you see. So, when there is a question about where to put this nut or how to unscrew that, I'll go into a fibrillation, like the heart goes, or an oscillation. I go into an oscillation, my mind freezes, and somebody else standing there who's not in that fibrillation just said, well, what about that? They put the finger right on it, you see. Where I, am locked in by my assumption that I can't fix it. So this has been part of my Dharma Trail. That's what the Dharma Trail is. Transcending your assumptions. Passing through your assumptions as if it were a wall made of mist. You see, we think the assumption is kind of like opaque, and you don't even think to look on the other side. You can't look on the other side. There is no other side. That's the end of the universe, the assumption. There's nothing there. But then, on the Dharma Trail, your opaque wall becomes transparent. And you have occasions to walk right through it. And you feel so excited and so proud of yourself for having walked through the wall of your assumptions, you see. Because the energy that it takes to maintain that wall is free energy that you have cemented into a wall of assumptions. And that energy is locked up in it. It doesn't allow your potential to grow. It doesn't allow you to be your true nature. It doesn't allow you to be creative, you see. Oh, I can't go there, you see. Why? Well, I don't know. I just can't. There's a wall. Can you see the wall? No. See, you can't see the assumption wall. If you could see it, you would climb over it, go under it, go around it. But you can't see it, so it's unconscious. The assumption wall that bounds us into our habitual way of relating to the world means that you keep repeating yourself is an invisible wall. Because if you could see it, you'd climb it and go around it. But the Dharma Trail is to make it transparent. Is to make it not opaque, but you just step through it. There is no wall. There is no wall. You just, step through it, you see. But and we're all like this. We all have assumption walls that we inherit from our family, that have been built into us by conditioning. The wall, you see. And it keeps out our potential. It keeps out our growth. It keeps out our joy. There's no joy when you live within an assumption wall, in a walled city, because it's a container. You see, you feel contained. You feel like you're missing something. You feel like you're, and you feel a little guilty. You feel like, because you should be guilty. You're not fulfilling your true potential, you see. You're not free. You're walled in by invisible walls of assumptions. So anyway, tomorrow we're going to set up the table and the YouTube instructor. It's really, YouTube instruction. I guess there's a YouTube to do anything you want. And it really is a great liberating thing today, because otherwise I would not have the visual instruction on how to take this grinder apart. Got little ball bearings in it and little things like that, and you got to take those grinders out and clean it. And he said you should clean it every year. We've had it for 4 years, so I know we're going to expect some crud, you see. But I look at it metaphorically in that I'm going to clean out my assumptions. I'm going to scrape out the assumptions that have made my coffee machine stop, you see. So this is always the fun of the Dharma Trail, is that when you discover, when you go through an assumption, then you begin to see the shape of your assumptions that you just assume. You see, assuming means you don't question it. An assumption is something you don't question. It's just the way it is. Society goes through this in the sense that, black people should be servants, or women should stay at home, or gay people should stay in the closet. That's just the way it is. That's the assumption, you see. It's not questioned. So questioning assumptions always lets the energy out and makes change. And maybe we don't like that change. Maybe I've liked being the person who can't fix anything, who always has to either throw it out and buy a new one, or call some authority or tech support or a plumber or something to come fix it. Oh, I can't do it, you see. I can't. Who am I to assume I can do it, you see? So that's kind of like the identities, the assumptions we have, frames our identity. And we don't want to give up our identity, because then who would I be without my assumptions? Who would I be that my assumptions that liberals are evil or conservatives are idiots or whatever? You see, all the assumptions. Or that Obama is the Antichrist or Trump is the great Satan or something. These are assumptions. You see, I don't question that because my identity is based in my assumptions. And I certainly don't want to question my identity because then I might have to go through it. It might become transparent. What about that? What if I became transparent? All of the walls and assumptions that give me my sense of self, you see, becomes transparent. Where would I be then? I'd be free. I'd be free. Thanks for dropping in.